Hi, this is Chris German from the Apartment Dealer, and over the last few weeks I've walked you through one of my own personal remodels of a rental unit, all under the guise of maximizing cash flow, maximizing the rental rate. And I'm especially trying to help those of you who shy away from renovations, either thinking they're too time-consuming, too confusing, too costly, and also trying to help all landlords at large, because given the new rent control law, AB 1482, one of the provisions is that if you do want to vacate a tenant and the unit is in need of what they call substantial renovations, you can do so, but you have to know, well, what is it that we're going to be doing here? It's not just changing the kitchen cabinets. It's not just changing the vanity in the bathroom. The law clearly states it needs to be substantial, and they give examples of either electrical overhauls, plumbing overhauls, and the like. And we did both in this project. But in today's video, we're going to walk you through the final cost and the payout. What did the project cost, each segment, and then the final rent, and what does that mean in terms of recouping that money? How long does it take us to recoup that initial capital investment, the initial investment of capital, I should say. First and foremost, permits were $250. We did do the project with permits, and fees came out to $250. Demolition and actually the wood repair that was needed in the bathroom, because once we tore out the bathroom, there was some wood rot, termite damage, and that all amounted to about $3,000. The copper repipe, the repiping of the property, which included new drains. It included running hot and cold lines and the gas line for the exterior laundry room that we installed. It also included moving the water heater from what was originally inside a water heater closet that was in a makeshift enclosed patio, not done by me, but by the previous owner or some previous owner. But that also included moving that to an exterior hot water heater shed. So all included was $28.31, my cost on the copper repipe and plumbing. New water heater, the last one was no good. And as if you've watched one of the previous video segments, I commented on why we do not just use Ream or something you can find at Lowe's or Home Depot, but we actually use Bradford White, and that water heater ended up costing me $655. The electrical consisted of running brand new wires from the sub panel, upgrading the sub panel, installing recessed lighting in the living room, kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. It included installing a vent, a vent with fan in the bathroom. It included new plugs, new switches, all Decora style, the square style, the updated style. So all in, the electrical was $3,000. Interior wall relocation. So again, if you watched the previous segment, you found, or you saw that we found out, that the interior walls were, by today's standards, too thin. In other words, if you took a door frame of a pre-hung door, the walls themselves could not accompany the door jamb because they were too thin. Now, this probably means one of two things. One, way back when, this unit maybe was a studio unit. It's a one bedroom now on title by the, legally. But maybe some time ago, somebody had put up some interior walls and they just didn't go by the normal thickness. Could be one explanation. Two, it could be given the age of the structure. Maybe that was just standard, because it did have the older style interior doors that you can no longer find. So those interior doors worked. It's just that when we went to, or when we measured, we figured out the new doors that you'll find at Home Depot, the regular 6-panel interior doors, were not going to fit. So we tore down all the interior walls, including the wall between the kitchen and bathroom. That helped us expand the bedroom somewhat, helped us create a much larger closet than once was originally there. And all in, the drywall, the framing of the new walls, and so forth came out to $4,800. Windows, we put in new Retrofit Windows, and we went with something that's a little more costly. Instead of just installing the regular white windows that you see that everyone installs, given the color of the structure, we opted to go with windows that had a brown frame. And all that means is at the window plant, they treat them there, they paint them there with a special paint, and you pay for a little bit of a premium. As you're pulling windows out and putting windows in, and sometimes you have to fix window seals, so they're, and stucco patching and what have you. So all in for that was $3,500. Tiling of the floor. So we went with all porcelain tile throughout the entire unit, no carpet whatsoever. If you watch a previous episode, you also seen that we tile the shower walls. Instead of putting, say, a 3-piece fiberglass surround that many people use, or is more customary to say a 1960s built property, we tile it. We find that plus the kitchen remodel lends itself to a much higher rental rate. So for all the tile work, shower walls, flooring, that was $3,000. That includes the tile itself, fence set, hardy backer, and all the goodies associated with that. New entry door, interior doors, and the laundry room refinish. So we took that patio that someone had enclosed way back when. We closed off an interior door, and I'm sure we'll put a link here so you can watch the previous video so you can get a visual of what I'm discussing. But the completion of that exterior, or we turned that into an exterior laundry room, those items were $2,000. For the kitchen sink, garbage disposal, and the new cabinetry all installed plus materials was $1,800. And then you had the interior and exterior paint, which came out to $2,000 because we had put up new walls, new drywall, 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of paint in the interior, and then we did 2 coats of paint on the exterior. So the grand total was $26,580. Now, keep in mind, some of you hear that number and say, well, gosh, I mean, that's a lot of money. Even though I did raise my rent from $900 to $1,400, you don't see the justification in that. There is several items here that were not necessities. And I want to discuss this for a minute. If you remember from the first episode, I discussed that this particular property is a buy and hold. It's not a buy and flip. So we weren't just looking to put some lipstick on it and then sell it, say within 6 months or a year. This is a long-term hold. And given that, because I'm very busy with my business, serving you, the landlords, I don't have time for calls for leaky faucets and clogged drains and all the other calls that landlords get. So by changing things out like the electrical, changing things out like the plumbing, I get next to no calls from our units. And I mean that truthfully. I maybe visit the properties once a quarter, but we do not have a huge demand on our time, my wife and I, on our time from our rentals because we make this initial capital investment. So the repipe, obviously some piping had to be replaced, but the entire property did not need to be upgraded to copper. So let's say that would have saved you $1,500, $1,500, had I not installed copper piping all the way through. The electrical, you didn't necessarily need to run all new wiring and upgrade the sub panel. We chose to, but had I not, that would have been a savings of $2,000. The interior walls, we could have left the original interior walls and we could have just sanded the original doors, repainted the original doors, left the original closet that was the size of, say, like a coat closet at that time. We could have done that, and had we, that would have saved us $3,000. And then the tile. We go, first of all, like I mentioned, we use porcelain, not ceramic, just because it's more heavy duty, will last longer, it's not going to crack so easy if the tenant drops something. Second, we're going for a nice aesthetic look for the property. So we install a porcelain tile that actually is $3 a foot. And you could find something, say for $1 a foot, even maybe porcelain if you shop around some of these tile houses. But the one we've been using lately is $3 a foot. The tile that we use for the shower, that is not it's not a cheap tile. So all in all, when I was doing some math, if you would have went with more of a basic tile, or even if you would have went with carpet, there would have been more of an additional savings. But let's just say you would have just changed the type of tile, that would have been a savings of about $1,500. So in total, if you don't do the whole copper repipe, you don't upgrade the sub panel and run all the new wiring, you don't change the interior walls, and you go with a cheaper tile, that would have brought the remodel down to $18,580. Okay, so now we want to figure out, well, how long does it take us to recoup this amount of money? Well, we went from $900 to $1,400, so that's $6,000 in the first year, because now with this brand new great rent control law, you can only raise rents one time per year, 5% plus CPI, unless you're in a community that has its own version of rent control that's more severe, then you have to follow those rules. But we're talking about the state rent control. So $500, that amounts to per month, so that amounts to $6,000 in the first year. Then let's say we just raise the rent $50. Of course, you could raise it much more than that, right? You could take $1,400 times, this is in LA County, so say times 8.3%. But because I'm starting out at market rent, I don't know that I could raise it another $120, $150 12 months from now. But let's say something more modest, $50. So it's $550 in year 2 per month. That's $6,600 annually. And in the third year, if you raise it another $50, so now instead of being $500 more than the original rent 3 years prior, it's actually $600 more. In total, it would take you 2 years and 10 months to recoup the investment that you'd put into the property. So over 2 years and 10 months, your new tenant or tenants over the course of this period of time would have repaid for the unit to be fully remodeled. Many of these units that we either purchase or that I sell on a day-to-day basis have not been updated since the 1960s or the 70s or 80s when they were originally built. And the materials, you can only resurface the cabinets so many times. You can only reglaze the bathtub so many times. It's time for an upgrade. So by investing in this case, what was it? The $18,580, that's going to last you another 15, 20 years, let's say. And you pay for it up front in the first 2 years, 10 months of renting it out. That's my justification for the remodels. The tenants pay you back in what I believe is a short amount of time. You know, if this took 7 years to recoup your money or something, then arguably you don't go through the whole process just to go through the exercise or just to have pretty units, right? It's about the economics of it. But in 2 years, 10 months, to me, in my opinion, that's a reasonable amount of time to recoup my investment. It's a tax write-off. It increases the value of the property overall. When we eventually go to sell that property in the future to do an exchange or something like this, we're going to receive that much more money upon the sale, not only because of the condition, but because our rental rates will be at market. Price is a reflection of your rental income. And so we win at when it's time to exit, we win, or if you do these remodels, you win at that time as well. So it is a great approach. I often talk about that there's 3 pillars to building your financial legacy. The first pillar is maximization. You already have rental units. Are we maximizing what we currently own? Before we talk about exchanging and doing all kinds of other strategies to increase our portfolio size and to move into pillar 2, which is growth, are we maximizing what we currently have? And this is that piece. Doing the remodels, bringing the properties up to speed, putting in a new type of tenant base that will appreciate the work and detail that's gone into the unit so that they pay that higher rent. And of course, with the added extras that I put into the unit with copper repipe and everything else, the property has that much more longevity. I hope this exercise has been helpful. We look to bring you another project here in the near future, but share your comments. Give me some feedback. Is this helpful? Were there things about the remodel that I didn't share that maybe you would have liked me to share? What details about this project? I'm exposing our rentals to you, our audience here, to our clients, to apartment investors, in hopes that this helps you. But I need to know you're the ones taking this in. So is it helpful? Is the content I'm sharing benefiting you as an apartment investor? Until our next episode here, Chris German, the apartment dealer, wishing you positive cash flow, tenants who behave, and much protection from Uncle Sam. Thank you.